All right, welcome to this tutorial on gesture drawing in life drawing. So we're going to start off with a timed actual drawing, and I'll kind of demo it and then talk a little bit about it. So I have a timer here. Just Google it. I can hit start. A 30-second gesture is very quick. I'm going to go up, I think, to at least a minute, which is actually a lot of time. But I'll start with a minute. And then I'll hit start, and I'll kind of have this off to the side a little bit just so we can start to see it count down. And maybe I'll bring this timer over, yeah, like that. And so what I'm going to do here is basically draw what is known as a gesture drawing, which is basically the pose of the drawing. So it's mainly the pose of the figure. You try and get the entire figure down and in a couple of gestures. And depending on how much time you have, you can get a little more detail down, but essentially what you're trying to capture is sort of the main pose of the figure. You can capture some weight, some structural information, but it should not be like a contour drawing where it's a long drawn out drawing. These drawings should be very fast, very quick, and very expressive and gestural in nature. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a 1 minute, and then maybe I'll do like a 2 or 3 minute drawing of another figure, just to kind of give you an example of a couple different ones. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit start here, and there we go. And so basically the main thing I like to do is start with the head. And again, you can see how my lines are real loose, and I'm just kind of, warming up here. I'm kind of figuring out how this figure is. So I'm going to start with the main vertebrae here, and then sort of the legs. And you can see it's kind of like sketching big blocky lines. And you can see here in 30 seconds I've kind of done a very quick little gesture. And I could add a little more detail here, but a minute goes by pretty fast. And if you get a chance, you can capture some of the volume. But essentially the main idea here again is the pose. So let's get the feet in here and the placement. And 30 seconds is going to be really tough. A minute's going to be, a little bit easier. So you're going to have to do some of these poses a little bit fast, but again here, there we go. So that was a minute. And you can see what I've created here in a minute. Even in a minute, it's impressive how much information you can get. If we look at the figure here that we're drawing, I've sort of captured the head. I made it a little bit big. I would probably, I was kind of searching for those lines. In terms of gesture drawing, you kind of like map out like the structure of like a head. And then in terms of the arm weight, I kind of got the main thrust of gesture here. I kind of started to add some crossover lines for like the muscle, the main one, which is the deltoid muscles here that I saw. And then it's kind of making landmarks. So the hip line here, which is defined by is underwear here, and then the length of the leg, I was trying to match that. Now I could have added, I didn't have time or didn't think about it enough, I could have added the sort of knee structure. Typically I try to do that. And then also the structure of maybe the foot, where the ankle is, those kind of things. Kind of think of it like almost like a stick figure, but it's a very expressive kind of cool figure. And these are really to loose you up and warm you up. If I did another minute exactly with this same figure, it would look completely different. It would be pretty amazing to see, actually. But I'm going to do a slightly longer pose with another figure. So let's do this figure here. And so let me turn off that one. And I'll turn off that layer. And I'll be on this layer here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit longer time, maybe like 3 minutes. Again, it's still a relatively short period of time when you think about it, if you got hours to draw a drawing. And it's pretty impressive what you can get done in a short amount of time. And that's kind of what I'm going to show here, is like, what can you accomplish in this short amount of time? Now, I feel like I need a little bit more on my canvas. I am going to move the image over just slightly with the move tool. Whoops, let me undo that. And then grab the move tool and just kind of shove this figure over just a tiny bit. Maybe what I'll do is I'll resize the figure a little bit, just because I am kind of cramped here because of the timer. I want to make sure I have the timer visible. So I'm just going to scale down this one a little bit. So I'm going to draw the figure on the left here. And again, I got 3 minutes here, so I'm going to go ahead and hit start. All right. So I'm going to switch to my paintbrush tool. And again, with this one, I might start with something a little bit different. I might start with the arms, because the arms are kind of up here. And then start with the gesture of, the arch there of the body. And then try and capture the essence of the figure here. And so think of this as a gesture drawing in like pencil, hard pencil. If I was doing charcoal, I would be kind of filling in value. So it'd be kind of like bigger, if I made my brush really big, something like that, like bigger marks. I'm going to shrink it down and work with what I got here and kind of make it like a pencil drawing gesture. But again, you try and move very quickly and just try and capture the feeling of the figure. And then your eye constantly goes back and forth between the figure and the drawing. And it takes a lot of practice, but you can get really good at drawing the figure very fast. You'll be amazed at how fast, or I like to think of it as like how little time you need to actually make the figure once you've drawn enough of them. It takes a lot of practice in terms of like drawing the figure. But once you start drawing out these little forms here, you start to figure out, oh, I don't need as much time as I thought to draw this or that in terms of the drawing. So yeah, it's kind of fun to do. I got 1.5 minutes, so I got like double the amount of time here still. I'm about halfway through. So I'm gonna make sure I get these sort of landmarks. So the elbow mark there, maybe I'll define a little contour. Sometimes I like to do this in a gesture drawing, is like define a nice contour. But again, the gesture should be sort of flowy. Get some essence of that hair. And I don't really see the figure, it's sort of in shadow. And then I can sort of find some lines here. I almost feel like sometimes you need less time. And I feel like I'm a little bit overworking this gesture in some ways. So I'm just kind of going over some areas. You can fill in a few lines, if you want to try and define a little bit more form. Like maybe I want to define this calf muscles here in the back. And so I kind of define that and then really emphasize the foot. Even though it's on the photo there, I could move the whole drawing over just a tad just so I can see my drawing of the foot and kind of lay that in. And now I feel like that's really good. And you can see how much you can do in just, 3 minutes. I think it's pretty amazing. And I've drawn the figure a lot, and this isn't necessarily my best work or anything, and again, I haven't warmed up a lot, but the more warming up you do, the better you're going to get at this sort of structure. All right, so at this point, I'll go ahead and hit reset. Again, at this point, I've done my 3 minutes. Now I can look at this, and if I want to make it a little bit stronger as a drawing, maybe I'm like, if I just give it 2 more lines or something like that, you can do that. It's not, now in a life drawing session, the model moves and changes her pose, but maybe you want to just add some definition, maybe the breast there to the rib cage, maybe the arm line. I just kind of want to nail and lie that down. It's just a few lines. If I can get a few lines in here and really exaggerate them a little bit and make them a little bit stronger, it can add a lot to the image. And maybe I fill in, some darkness in here with the hair. This is where if I was working with charcoal instead of a digital piece, I would probably add some information there. But let me just go ahead and zoom out. And what I'll do is move my image over so you can see the final end result. And let me just go ahead and expand Photoshop here. Make it a little bit easier to see. And then I'll move the drawing over slightly. So you can see, as a 3-minute drawing, it definitely captures the pose. It captures the essence of the figure, and it's got a few nice little marks. You can see a lot of areas where I've changed the lines. I'll kind of point out some areas where that happened. I'm going to add a new layer here, and I'm going to do it in a different color where I'll make some marks here in like red. So you can see, for example, here, let me make that mark of my brush a little bigger. Here, the line shifted to here. And, one could have been better than the other. And I feel like somewhere in between is at the correct. But I did capture that motion, that line there, I think is good to capture the line that's happening here. It's just not as exaggerated as I did there. Other areas I think are very successful is like the looping that happens there, the loop that happens there. So I'm noticing the foot padding here, right? The calf muscles, the wrapping that happens there and there. Sometimes it's nice to draw an actual photograph and see these kind of things. I feel like the weakest part maybe is like the structure of the arm. Maybe I could have made this because I see it now more looking at the photo. The hand is actually, the palm is actually locked into position, and so maybe showing more of that and strengthen that up could have helped that pose a little bit more. Also the elbow, maybe does come out a little bit further, so maybe something like that would have been good. I'm pretty happy the way the body turned out, this area. It's giving me enough information to kind of capture the pose. So overall, for a 3-minute drawing, I feel like it's pretty successful. And it's a lively drawing. If you look at it, especially if I zoom out here, from a distance, it's got a lot of energy and movement. It's got some cool contrast. I definitely, gave it those few seconds, or it was like 30 seconds of a few extra marks. If you're wanting to do that, enhance your gestures at the very end, it's not necessarily a bad thing, especially if you're working with something like a pencil, which is kind of a weak medium. It doesn't have a lot of darkness to it. This is a digital pencil, but it's still kind of thin, and just picking up a couple of lines here and there can add a lot of really cool contrast to your image. So until next time, I hope this gesture drawing session went well. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. Again, there's my 3-minute. Here's my 1-minute drawing, which again was very, very quick. And here's the figure for the pose, right? Again, sort of same idea here. And then in the 3 minutes pose here, I feel like this one, I definitely got more feeling out of it overall. So until next time, see you soon. Cheers.